Hi guys, today we're looking at this Commodore 1084 monitor from the early 80s. This originally came out to support the Commodore 64 home computer, and it's been updated and used on many other machines after that. This is pretty much a carbon copy of the Philips 8833 monitor. It has all the same internals in terms of the circuitry and the inputs, etc. It does look different because it's got a different case on it, but essentially they're the same machine. Now the problem with this one is a common problem with these monitors, including the Philips 8833, and the issue is with the power switch. So there's a latching switch inside here. You press it on, press it off, and it's meant to latch on and off, but the latch breaks on these. Now this one has only just started to go wrong, so it will actually latch on, but you need to press it a few times before that latch releases. So I press once and that's latched on. Press it again, it's still on, that's off. So the latch is definitely going on that switch. Also, you can see there that the switch tends to sit recessed a little bit. This plastic cover is not actually attached to the switch at all. The switch is behind this cover, and this plastic cover just presses the switch. But I might see what's causing that just to go loose there. Perhaps it just needs a spring putting in there, or perhaps there is a spring which has failed. So I will take a look at that as well. So yeah, let's get this open and we'll take a look at where that switch is. So hopefully you can see this okay. It's a little bit big on the bench, this monitor. So I'll just show you it working, or what it does at the moment. Press the power button. First press normally powers it up. You can see that it's lit up there. And the next press, next press, there we go. It's gone off on the third press. So that's the issue. So I'll get this unplugged and we'll get it opened up. Best way to tackle this is to sit the monitor face down, and there are two screws here at the top of the casing, and there are two screws here on the back, so they're the four main screws, and then there's one other screw just here by the composite input socket. With those screws removed, the cover just lifts off. You do need to be careful because there is a wire attaching the speaker inside the casing here, and that is just this 2-pin connector there So you just squeeze the tab and that comes right off. Now, for those of you not familiar with CRTs, you've heard, I'm sure, that there is potentially some dangerous voltages that can hang around in these monitors. The machine is unplugged from the mains at the moment, but the problem with these, or the issue, is that the tube itself can store a high potential charge. So these run at many thousands of volts, and the tube itself can act as a capacitor. Now, the only way that you can access the exposed terminal on these monitors is under this rubber cap. So this device here produces the high tension or the high voltage, comes down this cable and puts the charge onto the anode of the screen. Now, as I said, the only accessible terminal to that is under this rubber cap. So as long as you don't remove that rubber cap, then you can't touch anything with the charge here. But you may have seen some people will discharge these tubes before working on them. You only need to do that if you need to remove this cap. If this transformer is getting repaired or something and you need to take this off, then you would discharge the tube. But you're actually running more of a risk trying to discharge it than you would do just leaving the cap on, because you need to remove the cap and put some metal objects in there to discharge it. So if you're not touching any of this, I would just leave that all intact, and like I said, don't lift up or remove this rubber cover. Now, the issue that we have is the power switch, and that is down here at the front of the case. In order to get to this on this particular model, I think it's the same with the 8833s, you need to slide out the power supply board, and that's this one here on this black chassis. And the way you do that, just move this up slightly. The way you do that is to release this black clip under here. You just press this in, and then the power supply board is free to lift out. And before you do that, there are two sockets to remove. There's a plug here at the top, just needs to be taken out, and there is one more just at the bottom here. Difficult to see, but it's these red wires here. And with those two plugs removed, this whole board can just lift out. And this is our power supply board. So this is just the mains cable with the plug on the end, and that comes out quite neatly. This is a switch mode power supply, so potentially there could be a voltage on this capacitor, this large one. So you might be wise to just short that out with a screwdriver. There's usually nothing on these capacitors because when you turn the equipment off, you're breaking the mains connection, and any residual current left in the power supply will dissipate into the machine. But yeah, it's just a precaution. Now, these switches, I don't think they're made anymore, but they are still available. On places like eBay, there are still sellers with these switches, with the exact same switch, the same style, same model, part number, etc. This is just an ordinary double pole single throw switch. So you can see there that you've got the hot side, the live, and the neutral, which are both switched through here. And you can replace this with any number of switches. These were very common on old AT power supplies. You can still get a source of those on the internet quite cheap. The bit you need to make sure is similar size is this end piece here. So it's the length of this part here. If you get one and it's slightly too long, you could cut it down. If it's not quite long enough, then you could perhaps just glue a piece of plastic on the end. The power switch literally just butts up against this. The plastic front power switch just butts up against this and presses it in, so there's no actual connecting parts between this and the front. I'm just going to take out the power switch from the front. There's just a couple of clips holding that in inside, so if I angle that down, you might just be able to see the power switch there. And it has the LED attached to it, so there's a wire. I'll just disconnect that connector. And there's two little tabs. The switch is going to fall out towards the front. There's a little tab that I just need to press on either side. I can't really do that on camera, but I'll just need to get a screwdriver down there and press those two tabs in, and then the switch will fall out. It's a little bit fiddly to get out. You can see there's the couple of clips just on each side. So all you need to do is just press these in, and this switch will come out from the front. So the way this is arranged in the machine is that just sits up behind that switch like that. This part of the switch is square, this is round. It doesn't actually connect together. It just presses against it like that. Which is why you can use a variety of switches here. It doesn't have to be this exact one. Now, the switches that I have in stock, which I'm going to use, are these ones. Now this is just a single pole switch, not a double pole, but the end of it, as you can see, is a similar size to this one. Very similar, in fact. So I'm pretty sure this is going to work well. All I'm going to need to do is route it so it's just the hot side that goes through the switch. Now this monitor switches both poles, neutral and live, but it only needs to switch the live. Most equipment, in fact, does just use a switch single pole and switch the live. So what I'm going to do is the neutral that comes in from the mains cable, I'm going to route that straight to the board, so that's always connected, and then the live will go through the switch as it did before. And that's going to be fine. But if you don't want to do that and want to use a double pole switch, you feel free to do that. You can get the exact switch It's just that they do command a higher price, probably 10 times as much as this switch cost, for instance. So it's up to you whether you want to pay that money and go for the exact same switch, but there is space here where you can fit pretty much any double or single pole switch there. You can see the latching not working there. So this will fail altogether soon. It'll get into a position where you can't turn it on or turn it off. Now the switch that I'm using, although the screw positions there, the mounting screw positions look in the same position, this one is metal and this one has a plastic housing on it, so I don't think these screws are going to work with my switch. Might need to get some little bolts. Oh, it does fit. Yeah, it fits fine. Normally a screw won't go into a metal housing, it needs to be a bolt, but in this case that is working fine. So I can mount that switch into there. The switch I fitted there was a little bit shorter than the original, so I needed to pull this cable through this clip. You can see where the jaws of that clip bite into the cable there just to stop it moving. If you're careful, you can release that clip just by putting a screwdriver in the top here. You can release it, move the cable along and then snap it back shut. It's nice and tight again. So I'm going to solder these two neutral wires together here, put some heat shrink over it. So the new switch is fitted, that is ready to go. The other thing that I wanted to address was this front part of the switch, which was quite loose on the casing. Now I think, not sure whether this used to come with a spring fitted, maybe it's been lost over time, but I'm thinking a small spring around this shaft here would just keep this switch pressed out unless you were pressing the switch in. I have had a look through my box of parts and I can't find a suitable spring for that, so I may just have to put it back together the way it is now, and I can always refit a spring at some other time. I've always got a box of parts here. What I tend to do is, if I'm taking something apart or it's going to get thrown away, like something mechanical like a photocopier or a printer, I will just go through the thing and just take all the small parts off that. So nuts, bolts, springs, brackets, washers, anything tiny, because they always do come in handy when you need to repair something like this. Now I've noticed that on the switch that I pulled out of here, it does have a spring on it. Now, I'm not sure if it's the right size, but it does look, it looks big enough where it might go around there. So what I'm going to do is just cut the end of this off. And we can retrieve that spring. I'll be lucky if that fits. It does actually fit on there quite nicely. Just going to make the end of this a little bit bigger. Yeah, I reckon that'll work. So this switch just snaps back in. That's perfect. Yours hopefully will have the spring fitted. I'm sure there's a spring in there, but this one didn't have it, so someone's obviously had this apart before and taken that spring out. But just a small spring just to fit over that shaft, and you can see now I've got that tension there from the spring, and you can hear the switch activating. So that's the power switch replaced and repaired on this monitor. And it's, like I said, there's a number of monitors that this can occur with. There's the 1084, there's the updated one, the 1084S, there's the Philips 8833. They all have very similar switches in them. And like I said, you don't need to go for the original switch, any switch which will physically fit in there. I would tend to make sure that they're at least 2 amps and rated at mains voltage, but apart from that, no problem at all. These ones that I had in stock. These are 5 amp switches at mains voltage, but as you saw, they were just a single pole on these ones, so it's up to you whether you replace it with a single or a double. No problem at all having just a single pole on this and switching the mains voltage. That is what most of these devices are set up as, so you'll find that in most of these they're just a single pole switch, but these particular monitors there's the double pole. I hope it's helped you guys out, just seeing how that was done, and if you don't want to pay the price that people are selling these the original switches for, you can certainly replace them with something else. These ones I had in stock, I mean, these are single pole switches, but there's no problem at all putting a single pole switch in these machines. Just connect your neutrals together and switch the live. That is perfectly fine. So yeah, good luck in repairing yours if that's what you need to do, and I will see you on the next one.